Let's talk study methods. I wish I had known this when I was a kid. It would have made me a better student. It would have also made me a better learner earlier on. And I still see so many of my students doing the same mistakes, using ineffective study methods instead of effective ones. So today I'm going to show you what not to do, and more importantly, what to do instead. And if you're a teacher, stick around till the end and I'll show you how you can help your students perform better. How do students prepare for a test? Do they reread the textbook, or do they highlight text, do mind maps, or maybe just reread their notes? So researchers wanted to find out exactly that and did a study. In this study, researchers asked students to list all the study methods they use, and 84% of the students said that they reread their notes. That is almost twice as much as the second most popular study methods, which is doing practice problems, followed by flashcards. Now, when asked to rank the study methods, 55% of students listed rereading notes as their #1 study method, completely outpacing doing practice problems and rewriting notes at only 12%. So rereading notes is by far the most popular studying method. So the next obvious question is, does it help? Does it help students perform better? So researchers asked students to read a portion of a chapter from a social psychology textbook. They were then quizzed on the content later on. Now, half of the participants read the text once and half of the participants read the text twice. And the question was, would the students that read the text twice perform better on the quiz? The answer is no. In the words of the researchers, there were no benefits of rereading an introductory social psychology chapter, meaning that actually spending more time with the content doesn't improve your performance on a test later on. I mean, that is an incredible finding in itself, that 84% of those students that reread their notes to study are doing something that is completely useless, that doesn't improve their grades whatsoever. It gets even crazier with this next study. Students were asked to read a text 4 times in a row. A week later, they were given a quiz and scored on average 40% correct. When the researchers started replacing study sessions with tests, the scores improved dramatically. A single test boosted correct answers from 40 to 56%, and 3 tests improved the score to 61%. So in essence, students had spent a quarter of the time studying, but improved their performance by 52%. I mean, that's incredible. The students spent less time with the content and still improved their grades. Why is that? It has to do with something called the testing effect. Just like in the studies before, participants were given a text to read. 3 days later, they were quizzed on the content and got about 27% of the questions right. If, however, they had been given a multiple choice quiz right after reading the text, they got on average 53% of the questions right, which is a 96% increase in performance, nearly double the score. And finally, if instead of a multiple choice quiz, they got short answer questions, the average score went up to 57% correct. That's a 110% improvement. So quizzing seems to be really important at stopping the brain from forgetting the information. And it also makes a lot of sense. The brain only holds on to information that is relevant, and it knows which information is relevant by looking at how often it is used. If you only call information from your memory once, you're very likely going to forget it. But if you ask your brain to bring forth the information multiple times, the brain is more likely to hold on to it. So why do so many students reread their notes despite it being such an ineffective study strategy? Well, there are 3 main reasons. And reason number 1 is that so much time was spent building up those study notes, it doesn't make any sense to throw them in the bin. And second of all, there's a sense of trust in the notes. You are familiar with the content. You've written it in a way that you understand it. So the access to the information is very easy. And third, this is probably the most important point, is that it gives you a false sense of mastery. Let me explain. So when you reread your notes, you start recognizing what you've written and you go, I remember writing this, and you say, it must mean that I know this. So you equate recognizing with knowing. But that is wrong, because if I were to hide your study notes and ask you to replicate it on a new sheet of paper, you probably couldn't do it. And that simple test shows you that you know less than you thought. So my personal recommendations are flashcards. You write the question in the front and you hide the answer on the back. And that way you force your brain to extract the information from memory and bring it forward. And that simple exercise consolidates your memory, it makes sure that you are less likely to forget it. Now, flashcards are incredibly versatile. You can do definitions, diagrams, graphs, tables, advantages and disadvantages, and so many other things. Now, the way I would use flashcards is in the following manner. I would make two piles. One pile for the questions I answered correctly and one for the questions I answered incorrectly. Then I would study the second pile every day and the first pile every 2 to 3 days. And that way you're shifting your focus and your effort onto the things you didn't know. So if you're a fellow teacher, this is what I do in my class. I give them a 5 to 10 minute quiz at the beginning of the lesson, low stakes, diagnostic quiz, multiple choice and simple answer questions. The content is about the last 2 to 3 lessons, and I ask them to do it first in silence alone. Then they can help each other in pairs of 2, and later on we go over the quiz on the board. And that way we are testing our knowledge constantly, every lesson, regurgitating the content again and again. And that'll help them build a strong foundation on which you then can build higher level concepts. And then you find that you don't have to go back all the way to the foundations, teaching from the bottom up again. You can start at a higher level because students haven't forgotten the content yet. So if you're a student already doing flashcards, why don't you share your best flashcards with us on Instagram so that other students can see how it's done. And if you're a teacher also doing quizzing in class, why don't you share your practice in the comment section below. And lastly, if you like this kind of content on teaching and learning sciences, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to get the latest videos. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.